got some big green news for you. This time it actually comes in the form of some research and market predictions. Bloomberg New Energy Finance predicts the amount of energy storage, for example, to be installed throughout the world. And they have revised their prediction of how much batteries will be in use in the world. So they now predict some 2,850 gigawatt hours of storage to be in place by 2040. That number may not say a lot to you, but right now it was some 17 gigawatt hours. This means that the number of storage installed, or the amount of storage installed in cars, in large-scale energy installations, in people's homes, etc., will 122-fold until 2040. It's an exponential growth. It's a market that will be worth some $662 billion in invested money to get to that amount of energy storage. So it's a huge market buildup that is happening right now. It's driven by renewable energy installations that need, of course, storage because of the peak hours that solar provide. And then, of course, when there is no solar, there's no energy, so you need storage. Electric vehicles, of course, is also a big driver for it. But they now predict that a majority of this will actually be in larger scale installations. So it's the big utilities that will install solar and wind combined with energy storage in the years to come. What I also found is it's driven largely by also a decrease in battery costs. The cost of batteries has gone down 85% over the last 8 years. I think Bloomberg predicted a 50% decrease over the coming 10 years. So that's a cost curve that keeps going down. At the same time, I read another report where researchers from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm had gone through some 300-400 potential projects in China. They looked at the cost of installing new solar in a number of big cities in China, and they compared it to the cost of getting electricity from the grid. As it turned out, it's cheaper to build new solar installations and get the electricity from there than to buy it from the grid in all these places. This point, so this where you've reached grid parity, where the cost of producing a new source of energy and you compare it to getting the electricity from the grid, if it's cheaper for the new energy produced, you say that you've reached grid parity. This means that this has now been reached all over China for solar. Perhaps no surprise to some of you, this has been reached already in a lot of places, of course, all over the world. In Europe, in southern Europe, the cost of solar can be almost ridiculously low in new tenders. Even in countries like Finland and Sweden, they have seen that getting the cost, or at least in Finland, I don't know about Sweden, I've seen it in Finland, that the cost of getting electricity from new solar installations can actually be cheaper than getting it from the grid. But still, it's a big thing. They've gone through it, and this has now been reached in all major cities in China, as well as in Europe, I would say. So the next point, of course, will now be, when does a certain amount of storage plus solar also be comparable to getting the electricity from the grid? I think that's what we'll see the coming years. This also, of course, means, I would say, that getting solar electricity to feed our energy grids 24/7 is actually not that far away. If you consider the storage market growing, and if you consider the price of solar going down. So I find it an encouraging and really interesting development that is happening. Combined with that, there was an investment that I noticed recently in a company called Zolar Energy, spelled with a Z. Zolar Energy in Germany. Interesting one as well, because they're basically focusing on making solar and battery storage installations in people's homes really simple to achieve. So everything from planning, selecting the component, financing these installations, insuring them and installing them with their technicians. Everything from start to finish should be a one-shop stop, really simple. You should just be able to get it to your home. Germany has already quite a few of these, and now they're combining it with battery and making sure that these are really simple to install. And this is a company that now got a further $10 million in investment. I think it was Invent Capital and current owner as well, Statkraft, that invested. This means they now have two energy utilities, you could say, on board that company, because InVen also gets their funding from a Czech utility. So energy companies are also clearly seeing this trajectory, of course. I find it encouraging. So those were my big green news. Tune in again.